Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hard Nine Podcast. Today is February the 3rd, 2025, for those of you who have forgotten. Um, we are exactly 9 days from pitchers and catchers reporting for the Cardinals, and that's still really all we have. Still no major signings, which, not that we were looking for a major one, but we don't have really any minor signings either. And then we got a little news today on old Jimmy Ballgame.
Yeah, Mosaic did speak yesterday and really nothing new. Talked about how he didn't, without saying, because you can't talk about free agents, basically said Alex Bregman's messed everything up, like for everybody. So we're still on Alex Bregman watch. I think when he signs, I think within a week we'll know if Arenado's traded or not. So we'll see. But yeah, Jim Edmonds, always seems to make headlines even when he's not playing out. That's what I'll say.
Lot of headlines when he's not playing. Is interesting. The one thing I will say before we get to Jimmy is I still continue to ask, and I know the answer, but I don't like it. Is why is Mo still speaking? Can we hear from Hein Bloom and someone other than that man? That's all I want. I don't want a
That's, I
lot
mean,
more.
this. How many times are we gonna belabor this point? Harmloom's not in charge.
I
He's not
didn't
gonna
ask. It
speak.
was a rhetorical question. I will
I
continue
know,
to
but
say
can we
it.
just get over it? We don't have to do it every time.
I
Like it's
don't want
got
to get over it.
a
There's
year
certain
of
things
it's
I don't want to
stupid.
get over.
At least they told you when to expect Bloom to speak, so we can stop acting like it's gonna be different. It's not. Mo is still the guy. There is one thing Mo said that I thought was peculiar in one of his recent interviews. It wasn't the one yesterday, but he said something like, "I'm trying to set Heim Bloom up for like clean slate for Heim Bloom going into next year." Which to me is kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes some sense, but would make more sense if you didn't know who you were hiring. Like Chaim Bloom's there. If there's a move that could impact next year, call the dude's phone.
Just
If he's on
do you think
board,
that
do it.
they
If he's not, don't do it.
You think that Mo like sent him down like under the tunnel, like that's where his office is, like tucked out behind where they like wash the
I
uniforms?
don't think he's going to be at Busch Stadium very much. I think he's going to
Oh,
be in the
good,
minor leagues more often.
good. He'll probably be at Ballpark
But I
Village.
just think that to me is like so disingenuous to act like, oh, well, we just want to set Heim Bloom up with nothing. So he has all this payroll flexibility. When if there was like a move out there, like we'll talk about Jack Flaherty later. I'm not saying him. I know he's a hot button for this team. I'm just saying if there's a player like him that needs a 2-year deal for $30 million and Heim Bloom likes the guy, call him and ask.
Right, right, right. It does seem like
Like you
that
don't
would.
have to make it to be like, oh well, he can't have any money on the books because that might mess up with his plans. Just he has to be sitting next to you sometimes. Just ask the guy. I don't get it.
One would think. One would think. All right, so here's what we know. One, we know that Jimmy is out on the radio and television. I guess television. He doesn't do
Just
radio, does he?
radio.
The
Tim
tele
McKernan.
the television broadcast. No, I'm saying he's out for the
Oh,
out.
out of
No
the.
longer Cardinals
It's
broadcast.
television. Yes, it is
Yeah.
television.
He
It's
doesn't do radio. I realized that as soon as I said it. I know that will make a lot of people happy. Here is what I will say. Were there times that Jim Edmonds annoyed me? Yes. Do I believe he was set up for success? No. Do I also believe that when he started talking the ins and outs and the nuts and bolts of baseball, in my mind, I thought that guy should be a coach? Absolutely. So whatever your thoughts are on him, I understand it. I get completely both sides of it. There were times I was being Jimmy, just stop talking. But then when he would really talk about baseball, and there were plenty of times that I asked a question. You're going to get into this in a minute. When I would ask while I'm watching the game, he's picking up on things that these hitters are doing. Why isn't he relaying this to them? Like, I'm not blaming him. I'm saying why aren't we not utilizing everything we can, like to help these young hitters? And now we
Mhm.
kind of have an idea why.
Kind of. And for Jim, like he obviously has a personality that can rub people the wrong way. For me, like I'm not gonna sit here and act like I was always overjoyed when he was speaking about text messages, but it never bothered me all that much. Like I get why people found it annoying. I just it was kind of like whatever. It was one thing that Cardinals Nation galvanized behind was the text messages that he would always get from random people. And the one thing, just as this is more of a joke, like I'm not trying to like bury the guy. I just always find it hilarious when guys that are overwhelmingly successful at what they did. Like Jim Evans is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, I believe. And they
We
still
agree.
seem to be enamored by lesser famous people texting them. And like Harrison Bader texting me, I'm like, dude, you were better than him. Why are you so impressed by
You
Harrison Bader texting
There
you?
could literally be a no hitter going on, and he would say, "I just got a text message from Mark or from Ryan Terrio."
Yeah, you know what I
Like
think he was
no
doing
one,
though?
no one cares.
I think that the stuff like the if you get a text from someone that's relevant to what you're talking about and relaying that information can be valuable and it also gives you credibility because you know these people. But it just was funny that he always had to preface it with it was a text message. Like you didn't have to do that. Just say Ryan Terrio told me or whatever it was. But whatever. I
Back in the
mean,
day, Joe Morgan was the same way. For those people who grew up watching Joe Morgan, and also another sort of polarizing guy, whether you loved him or not, but he loved to try to add to his credibility. Bro was in the Hall of Fame. Like you
yeah,
don't we
top
you
3 to 5 second
credibility
baseman ever
comes with
live.
the name. Right, right,
Yeah.
right. But anyway, I
Also,
think that obviously
go
the
ahead.
information that he's gone. I mean that opens it up for Brad Thompson. But I think a lot of what he said is obviously why we're here tonight, and
Yeah.
things that might have made a lot of people go, what? Like it's that bad?
Yeah. I want to start it out by saying Jim Edmonds did on the radio when he was talking today, did say that the call that he received was them basically saying, "We don't want you back." And his response was, "I didn't want to come back anyway." So let's just throw that information out there to
Okay.
say there could be a tad bit of bitterness. Okay. I'm not saying there is. I'm saying there that is at least something we can keep in the back of our mind when we talk about Jim Edmonds maybe not being the happiest with the Cardinals organization right now.
For podcasting journalistic integrity.
Just for context, because we do know Jim sometimes he says what he wants to say, and sometimes what he says isn't always, I guess I'll say the truth.
Whoa.
Um, I don't want to get into it, but I'm just saying we can consider the source here.
Okay.
So let's get into it. So the thing that he said was he feels like since COVID, um, the Hall of Famers or even like former players aren't as welcome as they once were. That's basically the basis of what he was saying. He was saying there were times he tried to go down and the security would say, "Hey, not the right time, Jim," and he'd be like, "Oh." And then his smart ass comment was, "Oh, I'm not going to tell your pitcher he was tipping pitches then." Whatever. Um, there are so many ways you can go with this, and the story that he gave was Mark McGwire and Arenado wanting Mark McGwire to come to spring training, and the Cardinals apparently saying no. I do remember this when Arenado said publicly he wanted McGwire to come. Like I remember that happening. Um, I don't know the story behind that. That's Jim's. I mean, Jim and Mark obviously played together for a few years, so I'm assuming he got that from the source. Um, that to me, let's just start there. That's just dumb to me. Like I understand if you want to go down the route of we have a hitting philosophy. We don't want another guy who Mark McGwire is not just the hitter Mark McGwire. He was a hitting coach that got fired from St. Louis.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I understand if you're saying, I don't know what year this was. I think it was when Albert was the hitting coach, Jeff Albert, that is. If you say we don't want all these guys getting completely mixed messages, I get it. But to tell Mark McGwire that he can't come to spring training is absolutely insane. And I don't know if that's exactly what happened or just how it's being portrayed. But anytime you can get a guy like that into your into spring training, especially if guys are asking for it, I think you probably just let him come. Like I don't really
Well,
get it.
you brought this up earlier when you and I were talking. This is the front office that fired Chris Carpenter.
That's where I wanted to get to that because I think that's the crux of this. That happened during COVID, when they fired a lot of people. Like I heard, I think it was Brandon Kiley today was talking about it. A lot of these positions they're filling right now are only vacant because they fired them after 2020 when they wanted to save money. And Jim also made a comment about they wanted to trim the fat, and you heard Mosaic say things like that. Um, so I think the Chris Carpenter thing might have been like the signal of where things were going. Like the fact that Chris Carpenter, there's how many people alive have done more for this Cardinals organization than Chris Carpenter? Not very many. I mean, there
Five,
maybe, right? Like you can obviously talk
10,
about
5 to 10.
guys like Jose Oquendo, he's obviously been in a different role, but Chris Carpenter from my childhood was the guy. Like he won us a championship basically single-handedly on the pitching side of things. To fire that guy over what was probably a couple $100,000 at most, that's a sign that they're changing
So
directions.
let me ask you this, because when I read the stuff today, I was at work today, so I didn't get to watch the entire interview, but I did read the transcript. So I am caught up. I now know what's going on without being on Twitter. I know what's happening. However, it does make you question a couple things. I want to get your take on this. And if you want to dig more into Carpenter, feel free to do that as well. The Matt Holliday thing does kind of make you like, remember when we said we think it's about the kids, and it could have been. Please understand that. But it does sort of make you go, when something smells a little rotten, Maybe it's a
I'd
little
be
rocky.
honest about that situation. I don't think that has anything to do with this. I think that's
It might.
conspiracy
I
theory stuff.
Please let me say that I'm not saying it does. I'm saying though it does sort of lend credence to the people who believe that it does. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think it. I think.
I don't know.
I guess when there's enough weird things that happen, you can start to say
Yes.
maybe these are connected. But I really don't. One, I think the Cardinals as a whole hold Matt Holiday in a way different standard than they do Jim Edmonds. Just gonna say that.
Willie leaving. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, obviously he's going to a
He
different
didn't
role. So
leave.
I know that's
Yeah,
what
he
I'm
didn't
saying. I
leave.
said that.
He's old, Dad. That's my thought. He's old.
I don't like that at all.
Dude, I mean, I have never been on a 162 game season schedule, but I imagine as you get into your mid set to late 70s, it gets a little strenuous.
I wanted to bring up those two and Jose Oquendo because those do feel like the three. Now, Willie, I agree with. By the way, we agree. The Matt Holiday thing, I have no idea. I will take Matt at his face
What's your
value
Jose
because I don't.
Oquendo
Well,
thing?
I mean, he was gone for a while, then he was back, then he was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
He's also getting up there in
I'm
age, man.
I understand. I'm intrigued to see how they handled him. I don't know that we'll ever know, but I know that there was a lot of times where his name was the one that kept popping up for the manager spot and had a lot of credence from former players and current players behind it, and he
Yep.
never got that opportunity. Then he was gone for a little bit, then he was back. All I'm saying is it does make you wonder that after that 2011 year, and I know that this was the COVID talk, but the shift did become when they hired Mike Matheny. That's when it started. That was the beginning. That wasn't all of it, but that was the beginning. It just makes you. It just makes you go.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
I think
saying.
the Jose Oquendo thing, like, there's still anytime someone's bad defensively, Gorman, Walker, Contreras now moving to a new position, there's one guy they sent him to, and
Correct.
that's Jose Oquendo. So I think I would throw that one out the window. Do I think there might have been some resentment on Oquendo's part for being passed over for managerial jobs? Probably, and rightfully so. Like, he probably should
Yeah.
have gotten the job after Tony, in my opinion. Like, that's who I would have
Agreed.
hired.
Agreed.
But I don't think that has anything to do with it. Um, here's the other thing I wanted to get your opinion on, because I don't really have a firm stance on this. Um, because I think for the Mark McGuire situation, that's ridiculous. Like, get that guy around as much as possible. Like, he is one of the greatest hitters to ever live. I get he was on steroids. Look at his stats. The dude was crazy. What was I saying? Oh, we have been talking for a long time on here, like what, 3 years, about being tired of the Cardinal way, being tired of what that brings, and saying, oh, like, let's bring back Lance Lynn, let's bring back Matt Carpenter, and let's do all this. Which, by the way, they're still doing that, which is funny with all this, like, not wanting former players around. They clearly do want former players around. Um, Maybe they're trying to just get away from that and move it in a direction that's more, I don't know, current. Like, maybe
Here's
it's
what I
more
will say.
that.
Here's what I will say. From everything I've read, like you go back to the days when I grew up watching the '80s, and you had, I think, George Kissel around, you had Red Shadings around, you had the guys from back in the day. Obviously Stan,
Stan, yeah,
Bob, Gibby, I
Bob,
mean
everyone,
Gibby,
yeah,
Lou, all those guys, McCarver, fill in the blank, right? They were always around. I think there's value to having those guys around
yeah,
when needed. Does that make sense? I
yeah, I
think
agree.
my issue sometimes with the thing is why do we just keep recycling old players to get them back to give like that's I think that those are two clear differences. I also do think there is an irony, and I not an irony. That's not the right word. That's more that I was trying to use it like Alanis Morissette, which was never correct. That I'm trying to say more like I think it's funny that the Cardinals and Edmonds says this, and I'm not saying he's wrong. Um, but yet we keep hiring former Cardinals to be in the
Right.
dugout, right?
Descalso,
And
John
right,
Jay.
correct. Skip Schumacher, Ali Marmol, Mike Schultz, and I'm just saying like guys who were in the minor leagues, this whatever, Mike Matheny,
System guys,
filling
yeah.
right. But I do believe there is value to having the Cardinal Hall of Famers around. I do believe there's value that if he wants to be around, or one of the players wants him around to have Jason Isringhausen there. I do believe there's
He
value to
is.
have
He's a
Jim.
coach.
I understand. That's what I'm saying.
So
I
maybe it's
do
just
believe.
Jim Edmonds, dude.
That's what I do believe there's value to have Jim Edmonds around. I do believe there's value to have
No,
Mark
I'm
McGuire around.
saying maybe it's just they don't
Maybe,
want Jim Edmonds around.
but
Because let's
which
think about this. Hold on, let's think about this logically. One, what else happened in 2020? Bob Gibson died. Lou Brock died. Stan Musial had been gone for a while at that point.
not too.
So a
I
lot
mean,
of
a
their
little bit.
guys that had been a lot of their guys that had been around during the Jim Edmonds years, they unfortunately are no longer with us. So it feel like less anyway. Could just go to opening day. It's not the same as it was when I was growing up.
It's not.
When
It's
Stan was
not.
coming off and Bob was coming off and Lou Brock was coming off the Corvettes or whatever they were on back then.
McCarver.
Right. Mike
Yeah.
Shannon, all those guys.
Yes.
So that also did happen. We lost a lot of people in that era, that 2020-ish year. A lot of people died from the Cardinals, sadly. But also, and I don't want to like say that this is definitely the case because I obviously don't know. But when you just look at what you just said, they brought back John Jay. They brought back Daniel Descalso. Ryan Ludwig's teaching Victor Scott how to hit. Like Isringhausen's in the dugout now sometimes, and he's a roaming minor league guy.
Schumacher,
Schumacher was back. So is it
Yeah.
a former Cardinal thing, or is it that maybe they don't love what Jim Edmonds was telling people? I don't know. Like that's possible.
I also wonder, and I don't know, and some more speculation, which I don't always love to do. You know that. But I do wonder if coaches got frustrated when other people who weren't in the dugout and who weren't being paid to coach were giving advice. Like there are people out there whose ears perk up. Like we know that.
Maybe it's not even
I'm
just
not
that,
seeing
but it
happen.
could just be differing messages. Like if you're working with Jordan Walker and you're saying, "Hey, dude, you gotta stop hitting the ball on the ground so much," and then like this is obviously we don't know this happened, but then a guy like Jim Edmonds comes down and says, "Just hit," like don't worry about that. That'd piss you off. You'd be like, "Dude, like you're just discrediting
I'm
everything I
saying.
just said."
That's
yeah,
what
so
I'm
that's
saying. I'm
possible.
not blaming the coaches. I'm simply saying I wonder if that was part of it as well. I don't know. Again, everything we are guessing on here are things that you're just trying to connect dots on something on
Yeah, but
what
you're
he
also just
said.
getting one side of the story.
Correct.
And I also think like it's crazy to me. Like I don't know. Like it could have also been Jim Edmonds knowing he's Jim Edmonds and trying to get in at times when he shouldn't have been allowed in the clubhouse. That's
Could
very
be.
possible. Like it might not be the case, but also might be. Like there might be times when the security guard said, "Hey, they're in a team meeting, not now," and he might be like, "Well, I'm Jim Edmonds. Like, why can't I?" Like I like that's
One could
possible,
see that happening, right?
right? And from his perspective, I'd get it. Like he's Jim Edmonds, let him in. Like that's
Right.
fine. But I don't want to bag on Jim Edmonds the whole time because there's a very real possibility that what he's saying is true, and they're just not letting. They just don't value McGuire and Edmonds the way maybe they should or maybe they did in the past. So it's new. Um, but I also don't think you can only talk about this conversation, act like it's definitely 100% valid that everything he's saying is happening.
We agree. We agree.
And I have a lot
The
of respect
sad
for
part,
Jim
to be
Edmonds, so I
honest,
don't
Caleb,
want to come across like I don't.
to me, the sad part is it's incredibly believable either way. Like what he said,
Is it though?
when I
Like,
read
is
it, I
it?
was like, I could see that being a thing. I'm not saying
Yeah,
it is.
I could, but it's weird to me. Like they invited Yadier Molina back last year, did they
Right.
not? Albert Pujols is welcome back whenever he wants to walk in that clubhouse.
You never know who ruffles feathers. You never know who rubs coaches the wrong way. You never know
And
who gets butt hurt, worrying that they're looking over their shoulder at their job, thinking somebody's breathing down
right,
their neck. I'm not saying any of that is what happened. I'm saying you just never know. Like,
I will say the organizations that tend to not have any problems, or just in general with outside help, are the ones that are the most confident in their jobs.
correct. That is correct.
And is there a chance that there were a lot of people that were not confident that they were going to keep their jobs the last 2 years? Very possible.
That's all I'm saying is I think that's a very real
So
possibility.
it
I'm not saying
definitely is
that's it.
reasonable. I just wanted to give some context. It could be there.
Yeah.
Like I hope this doesn't come across as me just crapping on Jim Edmonds because that's not my intention.
No,
He's
no.
one of the greatest outfielders to ever play for this organization. And he deserves a ton of respect inside the organization. But there is something I do feel like when people lose their jobs, whether it was a mutual thing or it was less mutual than he made it seem, um, there's is always some resentment there, especially right after the fact. Like this happened, what,
Yes.
2 days after the announcement that he was leaving?
Yeah.
Like that's not nothing. It's something's there. So
Right. Right. What was instant reaction on the old Twitterverse?
I mean, as you'd expect, and I think it's fair. Like once again, when enough weird things happen throughout an organization, like we need to change everything in player development. We need to do all this, that, everything's wrong, and then they come out and say nothing's wrong. And then things like this come out, you're inclined to believe them because they've shown you nothing to show that they're not dysfunctional. So I think
Right.
the reaction was 100%
That's
valid.
that's what I was saying. When I read it, I was like, oh yeah, this could have all happened. It could
Yeah,
have
and it
not.
could very well be.
Yeah.
The Mark McGuire one makes me way more angry than Jim Edmonds one.
Agreed.
Mostly because I hold Mark McGuire in a very high regard, not only as the baseball player he was, but as the coach that he was for the Dodgers, for the Cardinals, for the Padres. People seem to love him when they played with him. as a
Yes.
coach. Like it would just be absolutely insane to look at Arenado and tell him he can't have the help of Mark McGuire.
Especially for a future Hall of Famer to ask
There
for
has to
that.
be other context to that, right? Like maybe, like there has to be something else there. Because on the surface, I'm just like, that goes against everything the Cardinals have ever always stood for. They've
Yeah.
always stood for continuity and bringing their guys back. I mean, how many ceremonies do we have every year?
Right.
Um,
Right.
so it just, to me, it seems like there's something I'm missing here, or it's just maybe it just has gotten that bad. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Like, what did
We
Arenado
we
say when they told him no?
yeah, right.
He had to be
That's a
like,
great
"What?
question.
What do you mean no? Like, I'm gonna shake
Yeah.
this guy's hand on opening day in 6 weeks
Yeah.
when he's wearing a red jacket. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it.
Also,
Like, there's
like that's
no
the weird thing
way that
about
makes
baseball.
sense.
Like a lot of guys would just say, "Well, I'm going to call him anyway." Like, what are you going to
He
do? Are
probably
you going to
did.
trade
I bet
me?
he did. Cause
Right.
is Mark from LA?
I think he's got. He lives
I think
out
he
there now.
is.
I think he's from
They
the LA. He
might.
went
They
to
probably know
obviously
each
went
other.
to
I guarantee they do.
obviously went to USC. Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a connection out there. No doubt about it.
Like, I guarantee they have. But yeah, he's from California. I
Yeah.
would imagine that they know each other pretty well. If
Yep.
he's asking for him to come, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Weird.
Um. Yeah, we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. One thing we are really bad at, and I think we've gotten really bad at it even worse lately, is if you are listening, hit that follow or that subscribe button. We're not
It's in
great
the
at self
comments every
promotion.
week.
Yeah, I feel like we should say it, but I don't. We do appreciate all of you who have. If you haven't and you like what you are hearing, we appreciate you. But hit that follow or that subscribe button. We still don't know. We got money sitting somewhere. We don't know how to get it, but it's there. I don't. We
It's
can't
like
figure it out.
maybe
We
12
might
cents we're missing
we
out
might have to
on.
hire someone to figure out how to get us to do something like this. So
And
if
by
there
the
are any
time we
CPAs
do
out
that, we'll
there
lose all
that
the
want to
money.
volunteer their time on what we should do, we would love to hear from you because at times we it's there, we see it, we don't know break
It's an
glass if you
unpaid
need it, I guess.
internship. We're not paying
But
anyone.
anyway, we do appreciate you all. We are all ready for Cardinal baseball. It's going to be interesting to see. Just a couple things I wanted to get to, unless you have something else to talk about on the Jim Edmonds front, which I really at this point in time do not.
I do not.
Would you put Jim Edmonds on the Mount Rushmore of center fielders of the Cardinals of all time? He has to be, right?
Probably number 2 behind Willie.
Where do you put Kurt Flood?
He's tough because what he did off the field was so much more valuable than what he did on the field.
Well, did he win 2 World Series with the Cardinals? Was he on the 64 team?
He was on
I'm
the
bad at that
64
era.
team. He was
Okay,
on the
so I think he
64
won
team.
2 here.
I think just pure performance wise, like he might be. I mean, he might be right up there with Willie McGee. Like, let's be honest. Like, go look at Jim Edmonds' stats, dude. He was insane. He was so good.
I think I don't, and I'm bad. If you
Who are
were
we
to give
missing?
me a guy who played for the Cardinals in 1908,
Right.
I don't know who that was. So I
There
don't
are
know.
possibly some other guys.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't even know who else. Like, I'd have trouble filling out the fourth because there hasn't been since Edmonds a center fielder that really lasted for more than however long John Jay lasted. And he
Yeah,
was like a really good player, but not
another
great.
shot at Michael Ciani right there.
I mean, he hasn't lasted very long yet. He's played like
It was a
110
joke.
games.
It was a joke.
No, I'm
I
tired
look
of you
at me
doing it.
for
Next
me
time I'm gonna
personally.
remember him.
Obviously, Willie lives in rarefied air for me because that was my childhood. Was Willie McGee winning batting titles and MVPs and robbing home runs in County Stadium in Milwaukee? Like
He has to be
that's what I
number
grew
one,
up
right?
on. But I think if we're honestly logically looking at it, Jim Edmonds might be the greatest center fielder in Cardinal history.
I don't know if you can say that because Willie won the same. They won the same amount of World Series, and Willie won an MVP, so that probably puts him above him.
Yeah, I mean that MV3 year, don't you think? I mean, obviously, I know he didn't win it, and he didn't win a batting title. I just think maybe if you look at the direct stats, it's kind of hard to argue. I don't know. I don't know. And again, Willie lives, like I said, rarefied air in my. I just think, again, this means nothing because I'm just simply wanted to point that out that I am intrigued by that argument.
Yeah, and Jim had one of the most iconic home runs of my lifetime. I don't remember it, but in 2006 in the NLCS.
Not only the home run, but was it 04? The catch from Brad? Yeah, 04 in center field. Brad
What year
would
was
have
it
beat
where
the Cardinals.
do you remember what year it was where he homered off Randy Johnson in the playoffs? Had to be 03 or 04.
Yeah, in that area. 2, 3, 4, somewhere there.
I saw a video of that the other day, and I was like, "That's crazy that he did that."
Yeah.
Like, how do lefties ever hit home runs off of him?
Just a little info. You were 2 when Jim Edmonds hit the home run against the Astros. I yelled so loudly in our basement that the dogs in our neighborhood started barking. That's I'm surprised I didn't have the cops called on me for how loudly I was yelling. So there was that.
Yeah,
That
I
the
mean,
David Freese home run and the Albert home run, like which ended up not meaning anything because we lost to the Astros in Game
it's the
6.
most
But
iconic home run in Cardinals history that resulted in basically nothing.
correct. Yeah, but yeah, okay. Let's move on. A couple things. One thing I wanted to ask you about, and it won't happen, but it was something that I thought made sense for the Cardinals. Is Ryan Brasier was dropped or like DFA'd or whatever he was by the Dodgers, right? Now I know
Mhm.
that they do have time to work out a trade. Is that correct? Like, what do they have a certain amount of
They
time
have
that
a
they can
week,
work?
a week,
Okay.
yeah.
Um,
So probably I guarantee he gets traded. Alex Faedo, who the Tigers DFA'd a couple days ago, that I think to make room for Carlos Estevez. Is that who they signed? No, it wasn't him. Who they signed? A reliever. Ah, crap, I don't remember. But they just DFA. He got traded today to the Rays. So
saw that. It
it's the same
just seems like
situation.
that would be a great fit for the Cardinals for two reasons. One, it really bolsters your bullpen at the back end, which we know
Mhm.
in today's game and with the question marks we still have on our starting rotation would make a lot of sense. The dude was freaking nails again last year. Again last year.
Yeah.
Also, that's another guy that if shit goes south, you're going to be able to trade Tanner Scott like. I'm not saying you're going to get that. I'm just saying that's another guy that a lot of teams would be interested in come the trade deadline. It just let's be forward thinking here instead of worrying about being reverse backwards thinking. That's all. That's just I thought of like
Reactionary.
that's a guy right there. Cardinals should be all over that right now. And he's not going to. I don't know what he costs you. I don't know the number. I don't
Nothing.
really honestly care because they've got money.
Costs you nothing. Costs you nothing. Um, well, a couple things. One, they had a lot of interest in him last year. So it wouldn't surprise me if they are interested in him. Like he was one of the guys they were trying to sign last season before they got traded for Kittredge. So that is possible. I don't know how much upside he has in terms of like providing so much strikeout stuff or whatever that a contender wants to trade a lot for him at the deadline. But I think if nothing else, like he's probably going to be a relatively cheap option just to put as a setup option if Ryan Fernandez isn't good this year, because that's very possible.
Maybe I overstated that you would get a lot at. Maybe I overstated by calling him Tanner Scott. Like I get that. But I do think that's a guy that if he has another year in 25 like he had in 24 and you're out of it, that's a guy that is a very solid trade piece
It'll get you
for you.
something.
And
You
it's
get
something that
something,
you and
yeah.
I have talked about on here quite a bit. Getting those guys like that. I call it the Marlins. Like it was their way of life for like 3 years where they were signing guys on a 1 year deal. It wasn't because they
Johnny
thought
Cueto.
they I mean, there's a bunch you can. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but there's
Pirates do it too.
a lot of guys who like there were outfielders that they were doing it with. Remember, and then they would trade Soler and guys like that. They would trade them. I think Soler was
Yep.
one of them, right? Either way,
Yeah, it
whatever.
was.
Um, like it's a smart move because if they help you and you're in it, great. It's only a 1 year deal. If they don't help you and you're not in it, you're not out anything. But if they're good and you're not out, you might get a draft pick or not a draft pick. You might get a minor leaguer out of it. That's all I'm saying, and that should be the Cardinals' thought for 2025. And it just kind of blows my mind that it seems like they're not anywhere near that.
The thing that's annoying about them right now is they are acting so broke, which they're not. Like, don't let them fool you, please. They're not broke.
Correct.
They're acting so broke that like they could go and get Kyle Finnegan, who's on the market right now. I would bet a decent amount of money he gets only a 1 year deal, maybe two, probably one in an option. Like, go get him. Yeah, he might cost you an extra $3 million to come to your team instead of the Padres or something. Um, Go do that. Because if you guys are out of it, then great. He's a guy that could get you something. And if you're in it, good. Like that's a really good piece to have. Like there's no
Yes.
losing here unless he like tears his UCL, knock on wood, and then you just spent $13 million for 1 year and like whatever. That's the
Right.
worst case scenario is you spend a couple $1 million. Like, okay, I
Yeah, we
don't get
agree.
it.
I think it has to be mind numbing to other fans. Like, but that's how I keep looking at like, let's do this. These are win-win situations. That's all they are.
And they choose to lose.
Bingo, bingo.
Yeah. It doesn't
I
make any
don't.
sense. Like the only thing that I could see is if they were like, well, we have a lot of young guys we want to see in the bullpen. And yeah, sure. But at the same time, we all know how volatile the bullpen is. Seeing what Matthew Liberatore or Gordon Graceffo does this year in the bullpen, while it could be good for this year, that doesn't mean jack shit for next year.
Right,
They
right.
could be awful the next year. We've seen this so many times. So
Yes.
also protect
Um,
those guys' arms. Don't make them have to be Kevin Segrist. So get other guys to pitch with them.
Final thing for me, Jack Flaherty signed back with the Tigers. Good, also good move for both. I'm glad that the Tigers got him back, and I think sliding him in there behind Skubal, where he's comfortable. He had a great year there. I think I wish him all the best of luck, and I think that's a good spot for him.
Who's that young kid they have? The other starter that's
Well,
really
Casey
good. Came up in
Mize, right, is one of them, and then they've
Isn't
got
it? Yes, but no.
there's
Okay,
two.
they
I
got
don't
a kid.
remember who
Hold
the
on.
other two guys
Let me
are,
look this up.
honestly, in that rotation.
Chicago
But
White Sox. Fangraphs.
but either
Hold
way,
on, I will get this quickly.
well, while you're looking it up, which is really bad podcasting,
I
we
wasn't
will
prepared.
I do think that it's a good move for Jack Flaherty. I'm happy for him. Again, you said it earlier, he's a hot button issue, but I've been a Jack fan since he's been a St. Louis Cardinal, and I'll continue to root
Me
for him
too.
wherever
And
he's at.
I think it sucks for him that he didn't get more. Like the year he had last year, 2 years, 35 it kind of sucks. I think people are still worried about his injuries. Like we saw the Yankees last year didn't trade for him because of the injuries.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you're still not even on here. I don't understand. I don't understand
Okay,
why
well
he's
then
doing
let's not
this.
worry about it. Does not matter. It's irrelevant right now.
No,
But
that's just pissed me off. Either way, yeah, it's a really good deal for the Tigers. I that wasn't where I thought he was gonna go because I just thought it was a perfect fit. He seemed to like it down there. Did you see he posted the picture of Dennis Rodman and Isaiah Thomas? That was his
I
picture to
I did
announce that
see
he was
that.
signing
Yes.
there.
Yep.
So I mean, I think it's a win-win for them for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe this guy just doesn't exist. I might have
Yeah, I
made him
think you
up.
made him up on it. Maybe you created him on the show.
No, he was up last year. This is crazy.
Okay. Okay, can we move on from this?
I'm getting gaslit by Fangraphs. Is what I
Good,
think's
good. I'm
happening.
glad. You deserve it. Um, last thing I
Yeah,
have.
great deal for him though.
Yes, last thing I have. Sorry, I said that before, but then I am done. Give me your initial thoughts, and then now you've had a night to sleep on it on the Luka AD trade. People
I think
will
it's the
love this,
worst.
by the way.
One I think it's the biggest, most surprising trade in NBA history or sports history in my lifetime. There's not even one close for me. I also think it might be the single dumbest move a franchise has ever made.
Okay, so which franchise?
Come on,
The Mavericks?
come on. The
Okay,
fact that you don't
can
know
I
is
give
alarming.
okay. So last night you texted, was it last night when it happened?
2 nights ago.
2 nights ago. Yeah, you texted me and I had so many text messages. My phone was blowing up about this trade. Initially, I was in agreement that I thought this was the dumbest trade in Dallas
You're
Mavericks history.
not.
Hold on. After listening and reading and
To who?
I'm not
Kendrick
doesn't matter.
Perkins.
No.
He's the only
Mike
one that's been on the
Wilbon,
Maverick side.
Charles Barkley, like people that I actually respect in basketball. Okay? Outside of my own thoughts. Here's the two things that I do believe. I think the Mavericks are better today because you allow Kyrie to play with the ball and the pick and roll with AD with their big front line is deadly.
They gave up 91 in the first half yesterday.
Hold on, let me finish. See, let me finish. The second thing is, I think this is the first move maybe in recent Lakers history that they made without LeBron in mind. I think it's a great move for the Lakers because they now have a superstar for the next 10 years, which they've always had in my lifetime. So the third final thing I will say is I don't understand it particularly from the Lakers side unless they go out and make a trade for a stud big man because all your guys are under 6'5" and 6'6" now.
You're gonna drive
And
me crazy.
here's the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing. For Luka to be great, he has to have the ball in his hand. For LeBron to be great, he has to have the ball in his hand. It's the same argument everybody had against the Russell Westbrook going there, and we saw what a nightmare that was. I'm concerned about that. Now, you can talk about his weight. We're dealing with that down here with Zion. You can talk about all of that. All I'm saying is initially I was with you that I thought, what in the hell are the Mavericks doing? I think for the short term, hold on. I think for the short term in the window of Kyrie and the Mavericks, I think they're deadly with Oklahoma City getting better. I don't think the Lakers are any better.
Stop for a second because you're driving me insane.
That's fine.
Does Kyrie Irving need the ball in his hands? Yes or no?
No.
He doesn't. He's a point guard.
No, they played. Hold on. If you watch the Mavs, he plays off the ball the majority of times.
So why are you trading the guy that just got you to the finals?
Did they win?
Did they lose to who they lose to?
The Celtics.
Okay, are they going to be the Celtics now?
I mean, that front line is much. Here's the thing. You have to have a front line to get through that West. and to
Let
get
me
through
cook for a second.
Cleveland or the Knicks.
No, you don't.
Yes,
Hold
you
on.
do.
No, you don't. Because they just did it. They just did it.
What do you mean they just did it?
They just got through the West.
I said to get through Oklahoma City's better and bigger this year. Houston is better and bigger
Come on.
right now. That's all I'm saying.
Houston,
That's all I'm
Dad,
saying.
they traded away one of the top 10 talents to ever walk on a basketball court. And you're going to tell me that they're better because they got a 31-year-old who never plays?
He does.
What are you talking about?
What's weird to me is you hired JJ Redick to build an offense around Anthony Davis and then you traded him.
You're going to be more successful with Kyrie Irving than with LeBron James.
Because Luka is shoot first guard.
That's not what I asked you.
That's why.
Why do you think
that is why.
that a team with Anthony Davis on it is going to be better if Kyrie Irving's the other star than they were when LeBron was the other star? Why in the world would that be the
Because
case?
LeBron's 39 years old and not that. I mean, he's great.
What
Don't
is
get me
Kyrie
wrong.
Irving better at than
Okay,
LeBron?
we've gone
Dad?
way too deep into this, but
No,
I do
this
believe
is ridiculous. You're not giving
would you like
Luka
to
enough
make a
credit
bet?
for
I
being.
will bet you right now that Dallas goes deeper in the playoffs this year than the Lakers.
Okay, I also think you're completely missing the point of making the trade then. Because if you're the Lakers, were they going to win with AD? Because if the answer is no, then guess who they have after LeBron retires? One of the best players in the world.
That's what I just said. I said for the long
But
run, I think it's a great move for the Lakers. For the short term, I think it's better for the Mavericks.
It's not.
It also does make you wonder, and I think I was Michael Wilborn, who I really do respect when it comes to basketball. One of the few people I truly value what he has to say because he's logical, he's around the game nonstop, and he gets a lot of information. The one thing that does make you question, he wasn't saying it just as a dig, was it does make you wonder how Luka outwore his welcome in Dallas. Also, Dallas saved a ton of money by not having to give him $70 million a year.
If Luka outwore his welcome so much in Dallas, then why did they give him 91 points in the first half after him getting traded yesterday? Why?
Do what?
If they hated him. They gave him 91 points in the first half yesterday after he got traded because they were so demoralized. Get out of here with that. Don't hate on Luka because he got traded by one of the dumbest GMs that's ever been a GM. This is the single dumbest move in sports history. You trade away he's going to end up being a top 10 player to ever walk on this planet. And you're going to sit here and tell me it's good because Anthony Davis is a center? Get out of here.
That's not what I said.
It's so stupid.
What I said was
there are 28 GMs. There are 28 GMs around the league who said they are shocked that they only called the Lakers because they would have given way more. So how can you tell me this is good?
I don't think you're in the long run.
You could have gotten Nikola Jokic for him, maybe. This is insane that's what they did.
No.
Nikola Jokic, I mean, I don't know that's a fair value.
Jokic.
Okay, I didn't think that the Mavericks, if I would have told you 2 months ago that you could get Luka Doncic for something, you'd say, they're not trading Luka Doncic because it's fucking insane that they did.
I get it. I get the anger. I get the hatred.
For nothing.
I get it.
They got nothing other than a first-round exit.
Huh?
They got a first-round exit out of it. Watch.
No way.
Because Anthony Davis will roll his ankle and be out for 2 weeks.
That could
also,
happen.
By the way, Luka
could eat his way through LA and be 300 pounds by the time the playoffs start.
Get out. Okay, he'll still drop 40 on your head.
We'll see.
Well, he's been doing it his whole career.
I love Luka. See, I don't like to just
then why
turn
are you calling
on
him
that.
fat?
I did because that's not what I said. That's what other people said.
Oh, he's only averaging 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists. What a fat
Charles Barkley said Moses Malone pulled him aside and said, if you don't lose 50 pounds, you'll just be a guy. You're a great player. So it changed his entire life.
Good thing the Suns didn't trade him immediately. Or the Sixers.
Suns?
Was he on the
Sixers? He played for the Sixers for years.
That's what I meant.
What are you talking about?
Trade him immediately.
Okay, we need to stop now because you're hurting our NBA cred with all these stupid takes.
No, you're hurting my
First of all,
head.
tell me that
Luka
LeBron's
Doncic,
a better point guard than Kyrie and has better handles. Who are you?
I didn't say handles. I didn't mean to say handles. I meant to say
you
facilitator.
Did. Yeah, we got to get out.
You're going to sit here and tell me you think Kyrie.
For those of you who love when we talk NBA,
LeBron
you're welcome.
James, did you just try and tell me that Kyrie Irving is better at point guard than LeBron James?
Yes.
That's just dumb.
Okay, that's fine. All right, let's get out of here.
It's not even logical. Kyrie's so good that he got traded.
That worthwhile to say.
So does that mean that Luka Doncic is better at point guard than Kyrie?
When LeBron won his title with Cleveland, who was the point guard?
Kyrie was called a point guard. He wasn't playing.
Kyrie was running the show, and he was making.
Okay, who passed the ball to him when he hit the game winner and to steal the championship? Who passed it to him? Oh Put the ball in his hand.
You do me in, bro. You do me in.
Okay, but you're talking to me about that. Luka Doncic is the point guard in Dallas. He was. So Kyrie's such a good point guard that he's 2 places he's been, he wasn't even playing point guard. Okay. But one of the greatest players to ever walk this planet.
Just wrong.
It's like calling Herb Jones a point guard when Zion.
Guys, everything Caleb says about the NBA is just wrong. I apologize for what you just had to listen to.
No, this is ridiculous. You're how many players in the NBA?
You sound like Shannon Sharp.
Stop. How many players in the NBA are better than Luka Doncic? Name me
That's
them.
not what I'm okay. That
Is Anthony
wasn't my
Davis one of them?
point. That wasn't my point.
Your point is because he plays center. Okay, let's say that gets him.
That
'Cause he-
wasn't my. I think that it works out better because it allows Kyrie to have the ball in his hands, and the pick
He's
and
not
roll
as-
with AD is better than Luka backing guys down, scoring 50 points, and still not winning a championship. That's all I'm saying.
They got to the championship. What team that
You
Kyrie
have to
Irving's
beat
led?
OKC. Okay, we've already said this. We're
Can
not
you
rehashing
name
it.
me a team that Kyrie Irving or Anthony Davis were on without LeBron James that got to a championship?
Can you name me a team that Luka got to a championship without Kyrie Irving?
Luka's 25.
Okay,
Kyrie
that
Irving's
wasn't
an
the
old
question.
man.
Is there one? Name me one.
Okay, we'll be back in 2 months when Anthony Davis has a broken leg and
That
Kyrie
could
Irving
happen. There is
Kyrie
nothing
Irving
worse if
refuses
you
to get another vaccination, and neither of them are playing.
nothing worse than if you are a sports bettor and you see Anthony Davis headed to the locker room, because it will happen. There's no doubt.
I wonder
All
why
right,
that's
let's
a
get out of
joke.
here. Let's
No one
get
says
out
that
of
about
here.
Luka Doncic.
Hopefully we have some more Cardinal news. When will we be back? What is our next one? What's our next schedule?
I don't want to talk to you again after
That's
this
fine.
shit
I'm
show.
all right with that.
That
we
was
were going to try
insane.
and do something on Sunday. Well, it won't be Sunday because that's the Super Bowl down here.
I
don't know.
I didn't say anything about Sunday. You did.
I might not come back on here after you just embarrassed all of our NBA stuff right there.
That it's insane that you tried to validate this trade from the Dallas Mavericks
Okay.
side. It's
All right.
insane.
All right,
They
guys,
just got
thank you
to the-
very
they
much.
just got
I
to
am
the
sorry for
finals.
everything that Caleb put you through there for the last 5 minutes. I do apologize. That if you stuck through it, you're a better human for it by just ignoring him. So we will be back soon. We will talk to you soon. You guys are the best. Have an awesome week. Go Cards.